Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're not just scratching the surface. We're performing a full-scale autopsy.
We really are.
Yeah, we're looking at the hidden gears turning behind the scenes of our institutions and asking a pretty uncomfortable question. Is the game rigged?
Right, and if it is, who rigged it?
Exactly. But before we hand over the scalpel and start cutting, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button and subscribe.
Please do.
It is literally the best way to support the show and ensure we can keep bringing you these deep dives that, the algorithm might not want you to see.
It makes a massive difference, yeah. And honestly, for today's topic, you are going to want to sit down and pay attention.
Oh, for sure. We're diving into a book titled Womansplaining: How Women Manipulate Insufferably by Conrad Riker. And look, if you're listening to this and you feel that click of recognition, or maybe your blood pressure is spiking just hearing the title, you should know right up front you can grab a copy on Amazon Kindle and Google Playbooks right now.
It's available today, yeah. And Riker frames this entire book as a red-pilled exploration.
Which is a heavy label.
It is. But he's not just talking about modern dating or internet culture. He is looking at the actual history of our institutions before they were, as he claims, captured by feminists and Marxists.
Right, he's talking about peeling back the veneer of polite society.
Exactly, to see the biological gears turning underneath. His central premise is that what we call social justice isn't actually progress at all. He calls it maternal instinct gone feral.
Maternal instinct gone feral. That is the hook right there. And we're going to unpack all of his theories today. It's an ultra-long, incisive, and honestly fascinating read for anyone, especially men's rights activists or guys in the manosphere who feel like the system is stacked against them.
Because Riker's claiming that these groups didn't just win through better arguments. He argues they captured institutions by weaponizing very specific evolutionary female behavioral traits.
Yeah, we're talking about the hive mind, the weaponization of victimhood, and this acronym he uses, GSR.
GSR, yeah.
But let's start with that core premise. What does Riker actually mean by a feral maternal instinct?
Well, think about biology. The maternal instinct is evolutionarily designed for a child or, a very close-knit family unit. It's all about protection, nurturing, keeping things safe.
Right, the den.
Exactly. But Riker argues that in the modern world, that instinct has been completely unmoored from the family. It's been projected onto the entire world.
So when he says it goes feral,
He means it becomes a desire to control the environment, to make the whole world quote-unquote safe, but at the expense of freedom, merit, or logic.
it's basically an autopsy of the female psyche as it interacts with institutional power. So if the software is this maternal instinct, the hardware running it is what he calls the hive mind.
Right, the hive mind.
This is one of the most striking concepts in the book for me. He argues that in these captured institutions, universities, HR departments, government agencies, women don't act as individuals, they swarm.
They swarm like a collective. And he points to evolutionary history for this. He argues that historically, men bonded through tasks, hunting, combat, building things.
It's transactional.
Highly transactional and objective. You do the job well, you're in the group. If you fail, you're out, no matter how nice you are.
Right.
But women, according to Riker, bonded through social cohesion and consensus to ensure the safety of the village while the men were away. So in the modern corporate or academic world, this manifests as the hive mind.
So it's fundamentally a collective defense mechanism.
Exactly. If one member of the group feels a threat or feels offended, the entire swarm activates. It's not about finding the objective truth. It's about preserving the emotional consensus of the group.
Meaning if you disrupt the harmony, you are the enemy, even if you have the facts on your side.
Yep. And that activation needs a delivery system, which is where GSR comes in.
Right, GSR. Gossip, shame, rally. Let's break this down because Riker presents this almost like a military doctrine. Step one is gossip. But he's not talking about water cooler chat, is he?
No, not at all. He's very careful to distinguish this from idle chatter. In Riker's view, gossip is an intelligence network. It's about information asymmetry.
You share information to build a narrative.
Exactly, to isolate a target before that target even knows they're under attack. It's like pre-bunking a person's reputation. By the time the actual confrontation happens, the narrative is already set behind closed doors.
Which perfectly sets the stage for step two, which is shame. And reading this, shame feels like the primary weapon in this whole arsenal.
It absolutely is. Shame is the application of social pressure instead of logic. In a logic-based argument, which Riker maps onto male communication or logos, You attack the facts.
You say, here is the data, and this is why you are wrong.
Right. But in a shame-based attack, you attack the tone, the character, or the social standing of the person. You don't say they are factually incorrect, you say they are a bad person for even thinking that way.
You made them socially unacceptable. It bypasses the brain and just hits the gut.
Precisely. And once the target is shamed and isolated, you get the kill shot. Rally.
The mobilization of the swarm.
The group moves in to utterly destroy the reputation. Riker actually cites a Stanford study in the book claiming that 78% of viral outrage campaigns begin with women.
78%. I mean, if that holds up, that is a staggering number.
It really is.
It implies that cancel culture itself might be inherently gendered, which is a conversation we almost never hear.
And that's exactly Riker's point. He links this to relational aggression. He draws a direct line from the schoolyard where girls ostracize a peer rather than fighting them physically straight to the Salem witch trials.
Mass hysteria repackaged as social justice.
Exactly. It's a mechanism for controlling the environment by purging anyone who disrupts the emotional consensus. He even brings up the Karen archetype.
Oh man, the Karen section. He doesn't treat it like a meme at all.
No, he treats it as a biological inevitability. He describes the Karen as a developmental stage of that feral maternal instinct. It's a woman whose nurturing drive has nowhere to go, so she tries to control public spaces.
Calling the manager, calling the HOA, calling the police.
Right. She uses the state or the manager as a surrogate husband to enforce her protection and will.
Which brings us to the core philosophical conflict he identifies. If the hive mind is the structure, the actual battle is between logos and pathos. Logic versus emotion.
Right.
It sounds a bit reductive on the surface. Men are logical, women are emotional. But how does he frame it?
He acknowledges it's a generalization, but he frames it as a principle of governance. Logos is the masculine principle. Structure, facts, objective reality. Pathos is the feminine principle. Emotion, subjective experience, quote unquote, my truth.
And his argument is that in these captured institutions, pathos doesn't just compete with logos, it completely overrides it.
Yes. And this is where he gets into crybullying.
I found this concept fascinating. Reframing vulnerability as an actual form of aggression. The idea that tears are a tactical weapon.
It's the ultimate defensive and offensive maneuver. Riker argues that tears instantly shut down debate. If you are winning an argument with logic and data and the other person starts crying,
The argument's over.
it's over. You have lost socially because you are now the aggressor. You're the bully, and they are the victim.
And he backs this up with data. He cites a University of London study claiming that tearful women are deemed 42% more trustworthy.
Which creates a massive perverse incentive. If performing victimhood gets you power and shuts down your opposition, you are going to get more performed victimhood. Riker argues the phrase, "I feel unsafe," has basically become a veto power.
It overrides objective facts entirely.
Completely. If you state a statistic about crime or biology, and someone says that fact makes them feel unsafe, the fact is thrown out and you are punished.
Like that wild example in the book with the dentist.
Oh, the lawsuit, yeah.
A woman sued her dentist because the noise of the drill gave her emotional flashbacks, and she won.
Because under this new pathos-driven system, her internal emotional state is given more legal weight than the objective reality of a standard medical procedure.
Riker calls it the triumph of lived experience over data. It's how biology, DNA, and statistics just get dismissed if they hurt someone's feelings.
And this mindset has moved out of the therapist's office and fully into the workplace. Riker points the finger directly at human resources.
The capture of HR. He claims HR departments are roughly 73% female.
Yes, and he argues this demographic shift is what transformed the corporate world from a meritocracy into what he calls a nursery.
A nursery. That is a stinging critique. How exactly does that manifest day to day?
Primarily through tone policing. I think a lot of men listening to this deep dive will recognize this immediately. You're not getting disciplined for what you said, you're getting disciplined for how you said it.
Right, you were being too direct or aggressive.
Exactly. Riker says that culture fit, that vague term every hiring manager uses, is just a euphemism for emotional obedience. It means you have to validate the feelings of the group.
So if you just focus on competence and getting results, but you don't do the emotional caretaking, you're a bad culture fit and you're out.
Yep. And this has real economic consequences. He mentions a Deloitte study showing that female-dominated HR leads to higher male turnover and lower innovation.
Because innovation requires risk.
And risk is inherently scary. If the priority of the institution is emotional safety, the whole company becomes risk-averse. You're managing feelings instead of solving problems.
So if the corporate workplace is the end result, where does the programming actually start? Riker takes us all the way back to school. He calls it the education indoctrination, or the war on boys.
This section is going to infuriate a lot of parents. Riker argues that schools have essentially pathologized boyhood, traits that are historically masculine, high energy, competitiveness, rough play.
Risk-taking.
Yeah, risk-taking. They are now treated as disorders. They're labeled as ADHD or toxic masculinity.
And the curriculum itself has changed. We've moved away from independence and individual achievement.
It's all about collaboration and safety now. He uses this crazy example of an Oregon school where a boy was suspended for playing with a foam lightsaber.
He wasn't even hitting anyone, right?
No, just playing. But the symbolism of the weapon was deemed a violation of the school's safety.
It's literally policing a child's imagination.
It is. And it gets worse with grading bias. Riker cites an Air Force Academy study that is super revealing.
Oh, walk us through that one.
The study suggests that female teachers grade boys lower for the exact same work compared to when the grading is anonymized.
Wow.
When the teacher knows it's a boy, the grade drops. When the name is hidden, the grade goes up based on actual merit. It suggests a massive bias against male students.
So you have boys being medicated for having energy, marked down just for being boys, and suspended for playing. Riker calls it a pipeline of demoralization.
And if you survive that pipeline, get a job, and get married, Riker says you eventually face the legal asymmetry in family courts. This is arguably the darkest chapter in the book.
He leads with a really haunting statistic about suicide.
The Swedish study, it links fathers losing custody to a 4.7 times increase in suicide risk.
4.7 times.
It's a staggering figure, and Riker argues society just ignores it because it doesn't fit the narrative of male privilege.
He breaks down how the courts are stacked, specifically looking at the tender years doctrine.
Right, the presumption that the mother is automatically the primary caregiver, regardless of who actually does what in the household.
But the part that really shocked me was his breakdown of how the legal system is used tactically, specifically restraining orders.
Yeah, he cites DOJ data claiming 87% of restraining orders are filed by women, and very often baselessly.
87%.
He calls it the nuclear option in a divorce. If you can paint the husband as dangerous, you win the house, you win the kids instantly. It's weaponized victimhood.
And the system allows it because of the massive double standard regarding violence, how the media frames it.
Exactly. When a woman is violent, how is it described?
She snapped. She was pushed to the brink. It was an emotional release.
Right. But if a man does it, it's predatory, it's toxic, it's inherent to his nature. He even points out the sisterhood of silence regarding female teachers abusing male students.
Oh yeah, the media framing there is wild. They call it a romance or a tragedy. If the genders are reversed, it's just strictly criminal.
It all ties back to his central thesis of the feral maternal instinct. Women have moved away from traditional motherhood, but they haven't lost that instinct. They've just projected it onto the state.
He calls it the nanny state, but he means that quite literally.
Very literally. The demand is for the government to act as a husband who provides endless resources and a father who disciplines the bad guys.
Like his critique of free period products. He calls it ritualized emotional theater.
It's a demand to be taken care of by the institution. But there's also this biological component he dives into that is guaranteed to get people heated. The hormonal hijack.
The chapter on leadership and biology. Yeah, this is the part that usually gets people canceled. Brings up Liz Truss, right?
He uses Liz Truss as an example to argue that decision-making at the highest levels can be influenced by hormonal fluctuations.
He's not saying women can't think.
No, but he's arguing that female leaders reverse policies much more frequently, and he attributes that to biological cycles rather than consistent strategic logic.
Huh.
It's a direct attack on the modern idea that biology is totally irrelevant to leadership.
He's arguing biology is destiny, or at least a very heavy thumb on the scale. And meanwhile, over in the economy, we have what he calls the empire of female spending.
Riker points out this massive paradox. Women control 80% of consumer spending, but simultaneously claim they are the oppressed class.
He describes modern self-care as debt-fueled narcissism.
Right, the whole Sheen Hall phenomenon on social media.
Buying mountains of cheap clothes you don't need.
With money you don't have, just to fill an emotional void, and then culturally framing it as empowerment.
So if we zoom out here, we've got captured schools, captured courts, a captured workplace. What does living in this environment do to men? Riker titles this section, The Death of Merit and Male Identity.
He says it creates a culture of perpetual shit testing.
Explain that for the listener who might not know the term.
In evolutionary psychology, a shit test is a subconscious way a woman tests a man's strength or confidence. But Riker argues modern society has institutionalized this entirely.
He talks about the Tinder tourist and validation farming.
Right. Women using dating apps not to actually find partners, but just to harvest attention and boost their egos. It's a constant test, and men are failing it because they're playing by the wrong rules.
Men are being conditioned to literally apologize for being competent.
That's the erosion of male identity he's warning about. He argues men are simping, they're apologizing for their strength, their logic, their success. He goes as far as to say that equity is actually theft.
Taking the labor of men and redistributing it based purely on identity quotas.
Exactly.
So what does a man do? We've painted an incredibly bleak picture of society here. Riker calls this book a war manual, so presumably there's a strategy for a counterattack. What's the solution?
His solution in the epilogue is stark. And it's not about protesting or complaining or voting harder. He says you have to stop playing, reclaim your logic, stop apologizing, and walk away from captured institutions entirely.
Just walk away. I mean, that sounds like giving up to a lot of guys.
Riker argues it's not surrender, it's strategic withdrawal. He believes you cannot fix a system that is fundamentally running on a different operating system. You can't use logic to argue with a system that uses tears and shame as weapons.
Right.
So he argues men need to build their own value, build parallel structures, and stop looking to these feminized institutions for any kind of validation.
Man, it is a heavy, heavy read. But Riker argues it's absolutely necessary for clarity. If you're intrigued by this breakdown, or if you want to see the primary source data for all these studies and claims, you really need to read the material yourself. Go check Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books to buy Womansplaining How Women Manipulate Insufferably.
And you can follow the author at Conrad and Riker on Substack. He's putting out a lot of great content that expands on these themes, especially the economic impacts we touched on today.
We want to hear what you think about all this. Is Riker right? Is this feral maternal instinct in the hive mind really running the show? Or is this just a harsh reaction to a changing world? Let us know in the comments. And please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review for the podcast.
It really helps us keep the lights on.
It does. It lets us keep bringing you these deep dives.
I'll leave you with this final thought from the book, something to really chew on. Riker writes, "Civilization burns, one safe space at a time."
And it makes you wonder, if all the men do finally take his advice and walk away from these institutions, who's going to be left to put out the fires? Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.